And good morning to you. Thank you for watching Eye on New Mexico. I'm Chris Ramirez, filling in for Nicole Brady, who is out sick this morning. Joining me is my colleague Ryan Luby. Hopefully, over the last month, you've gotten a chance to watch some of our investigative reports here on KOB. The two of us have spent long hours working in the field and in the Foreigner Side office. And this past month, we exposed people taking advantage of New Mexicans, and we questioned community leaders on issues that affect us all. This morning, we wanted to talk about some of our investigations and bring you a few updates as well.
That's right. Many of our Four on Your Side stories start with tips from viewers. They call us because they're having some sort of a problem, and sometimes they cannot find anyone else to listen. That was the case with one family who had been living in a sweltering home for more than a month this summer. They paid New Mexico Air and Solar thousands of dollars for refrigerated air, but they have nothing to show for it. John and Tammy Kirschman also paid for a new furnace back in April. They say they've made hundreds of calls trying to get the company to complete the work.
I figure we need to let other people know that this is what's happening out there, and so they don't make the same mistake.
Well, we quickly learned state regulators were looking for Ronnie Sampson and Jason Lutz. They say both men cashed in on work that was either illegal, incomplete, or never started at all. Day after day, week after week, Manny Gonzalez has documented proof that New Mexico Air and Solar charged him thousands of dollars at a time.
I'll never see a dime of this money.
Altogether, he says he's out nearly $25,000 on solar panels the company never installed. Now, he's one of a half-dozen families who are part of the building criminal case against both Jason Lutz and Ronnie Sampson.
It looks like Deception 101.
Mike Unthank, superintendent of New Mexico's Regulation and Licensing Department, says the men face charges because they did contracting work without a license and because they misused a license number belonging to a real contractor they didn't know. He says 22 families have filed complaints so far, beginning in May of last year.
We think there will probably be more to come, and it's just a real tragedy.
Unthank says the men only face misdemeanor charges because that's all the power his department has. But he says more serious charges against Sampson and Lutz could come from the district attorney. Whatever comes next, though, families say they are still suffering.
Now we have this tremendous amount of debt and nothing to show for it.
They just want justice. Well, if convicted, the punishment varies a little bit. On the smaller jobs, they could get 90 days in jail or just pay a fine of $500 max. On the bigger jobs, they could get 6 months in jail or pay a fine of 10% of what the job was worth. It goes without saying, of course, hire a contractor who is licensed. There are resources available out there. You can check it very easily on the state's website. We have links for that on our website, KOB.com.
You know, Ryan, and some of the reporting that I've done and that you've done, sometimes people don't even really know what to look for. They don't really know what kind of license you're supposed to have to do certain jobs. Where do those kind of resources exist?
Well, through the state website largely, and that's the kind of the portal for where you can find if somebody's mentioned that they are a licensed contractor of some fashion, be it an electrician or plumber or whatever. That website, if their name shows up through that website, that means you're good to go.
This story and our next story that we're about to show you really go to show how important it is to do your homework before contracting somebody. We exposed another businessman accused of defrauding customers. Several months ago, I confronted John Montano of Superior Plumbing to ask why he hadn't made several plumbing repairs he was paid to do. Now, he's indicted in 2 New Mexico counties now, all because people watched our investigation and then called police to tell them that they too were defrauded.
Why didn't you turn yourself in?
Again, I shouldn't answer these questions until the time is right. But I will talk to you when the time is right. Okay?
Did you know authorities were looking for you?
No, I did not.
That's our reporter Eric Kazuko asking Neil And good morning to you. Thank you for watching Eye on New Mexico. I'm Chris Ramirez, filling in for Nicole Brady, who is out sick this morning. Joining me is my colleague, 400 investigator Ryan Luby, and hopefully over the last month you've had a chance to watch some of our investigative reports here on KOB. Both Ryan and I have spent long hours working in the field and in our office. What we're trying to do is expose the wrongs in our community. We, this month, talked about some people taking advantage of New Mexicans, and we questioned community leaders on issues that affect us all. This morning, we wanted to talk about some of our investigations and, of course, bring you a few updates to them.
That's right. Many of our Four on Your Side stories start with tips from viewers. They call us because they are having some sort of a problem, and sometimes they cannot find anyone else to listen. That was the case with one family who had been living in a sweltering home for more than a month this summer. They paid New Mexico Air and Solar thousands of dollars for refrigerated air, but they have nothing to show for it. John and Tammy Kirschman also paid for a new furnace back in April. They say they've made hundreds of calls trying to get the company to complete the work.
I figure we need to let other people know that this is what's happening out there, and so they don't make the same mistake.
Regulators were looking for Ronnie Sampson and Jason Lutz. They say both men cashed in on work that was either illegal, incomplete, or never started at all. Day after day, week after week, Manny Gonzalez has documented proof that New Mexico Air and Solar charged him thousands of dollars at a time.
I'll never see a dime of this money.
Altogether, he says he's out nearly $25,000 on solar panels the company never installed. Now, he's one of a half-dozen families who are part of the building criminal case against both Jason Lutz and Ronnie Sampson.
It looks like Deception 101.
Mike Unthank, superintendent of New Mexico's Regulation and Licensing Department, says the men face charges because they did contracting work without a license and because they misused a license number belonging to a real contractor they didn't know. He says 22 families have filed complaints so far, beginning in May of last year.
We think there will probably be more to come, and it's just a real tragedy.
Unthank says the men only face misdemeanor charges because that's all the power his department has. But he says more serious charges against Sampson and Lutz could come from the district attorney. Whatever comes next, though, families say they are still suffering.
Now we have this tremendous amount of debt and nothing to show for it.
They just want justice. Well, if convicted, the punishment varies. On the smaller jobs, they could get 90 days in jail or just pay a fine of $500 max. On the bigger jobs, they could get 6 months in jail or pay a fine of 10% of what the job was worth. Of course, it goes without saying, if you have any doubt about a contractor you have hired, there are resources available out there. We have them on our website, KOB.com. Most of them connected through the licensing site for the state. If you find someone on that site who you're doing business with, good chance that they're actually doing business legitimately.
And it's so worth mentioning that when you're looking for a contractor, you really do your homework. You check the Better Business Bureau. You look at other people's reviews, and then, of course, the resources you mentioned about some of the sites available by the state and even by the city. Well, we also exposed another businessman accused of defrauding customers. Several months ago, I confronted John Montano of Superior Plumbing to ask why he hadn't made several plumbing repairs that he was paid to do. Now, he is now indicted in 2 New Mexico counties, all because people watched our investigation and then called their police departments to tell them they too were defrauded.
John Montano is the owner of Superior Plumbing, and last February,
She can't keep doing this.
we showed you how his business is anything but superior. These women say he ripped them off. Montano even attempted to pull a fast one on our undercover producer, trying to convince her that a perfectly fine water heater needed replacing.
How many people are going to be living here? Let me ask you that question.
2 for right now. It's just me and my daughter.
Okay, if it's just you and your daughter, in all honesty, I'd go tangless.
It's a scam.
Bernalillo County Detective Russell Tejas had heard about Montano. In a report, he even wrote, "I learned that Chris Ramirez of Channel 4 News had done a newscast showing Montano defrauding several people. I received several calls from people who said they were victims." In all, 13 people from Bernalillo County claimed they too had been scammed by John Montano, all fitting the same pattern. They gave Montano money for plumbing work, then Montano disappeared.
Pretty much with him, what makes this a criminal case is
simply that he went and he offered services, people paid him, and except for the most part, nothing was done.
Detective Taya says police work secured 16 new indictments this month on Montano, all on fraud or fraudulent use of credit card charges. The 13 new victims are in addition to the 2 we told you about in June in Sandoval County. Most of these victims, including this 92-year-old Corrales woman, came forward because they saw our investigation and realized they weren't alone.
And working with you, I think that really helped bring those victims, and then plus more to light, and eventually it also spurred into Corrales and Sandoval County. So I think that was real instrumental, and I think that was a good thing, a good positive thing that happened for the community. Actually,
Montano has always strongly denied any wrongdoing. This is what he had to say back in February.
We wanted to talk to you about some of the customers. Mm-hmm. Do you know some of the customers who may have filed complaints about you with the Attorney General's office?
No, I'd appreciate it. Turn that camera off.
We're gonna probably keep going. We're gonna keep rolling.
You guys might want to turn that camera off, though. I'm telling you right now. Turn the camera off.
We're not going to turn the camera off.
Since Montano now has indictments in 2 counties, 2 different juries will ultimately decide Montano's fate. Now, if Montano is convicted of any of these crimes, he could be facing some serious time in a state prison. Of course, you can count on us to be tracking every development of this story. In the newsroom, Chris Ramirez, KOB Eyewitness News 4.
And here I am in the studio. You know, Ryan, in this particular story, we've been talking about how important it is to do your homework and how important it is to really follow up before you hire that contractor, and when you're signing that contract, know exactly what it is that you're signing for.
Absolutely. And again, resources are out there. Don't take a gamble. If you have any doubt about someone you're working with, check them out. Do your homework. Don't put money down unless, of course, the work is done. That's probably the biggest lesson I think folks can probably learn from these stories that you just watched.
Well, moving on, making the choice of putting a parent or a grandparent in a nursing home is a tough one. Most people, of course, want their loved one to get the best care possible. And after researching nursing homes around New Mexico this summer, we found some serious problems with care at many facilities.
It's impossible for a resident to call for help if they fall on the floor.
The resident fell backwards in her wheelchair, hitting her head and sustaining a hematoma.
The problems coming out of New Mexico's nursing homes are staggering.
She asked if she could have a bath, and staff waited 3 days before they gave her a shower.
Talking to us on Skype from San Francisco, Frederick Cloyd knows this kind of agony all too well.
Call from a nurse and said that your mother's about to die. You need to get out here. And I said, what? Says, oh, your mother fell last week.
Kyoko Cloyd died at age 82 inside Paloma Blanca Health and Rehabilitation in Albuquerque. Records show she fell more than 20 times, sometimes because she had gotten out of her bed needing to urinate and nobody was there to help her.
I said, why wasn't I notified? And they said, well, I don't know, but you need to get out here.
Do you think that the staff at Paloma Blanca gave your mother the best care that they could possibly give?
No, because why should someone have to wait 45 minutes to go, 30 steps to the bathroom without the trauma that my mother went through?
Frederick is now suing Paloma Blanca, accusing them of wrongful death.
A lot of anxiety and self-blame, but ultimately I had to hold Paloma Blanca responsible.
You know, the concerns with Kyoko Cloyd got us thinking, is her situation unique? Well, the state health department inspects all nursing home facilities in New Mexico, and we asked for all inspection reports of metro area facilities in the last year, and we got a shower of paperwork. At Paloma Blanca, inspectors found nobody was properly notified when a patient fell out of his wheelchair and hurt himself. The incident was never reported or investigated. Another resident complained that caretakers were too rough when changing her clothes, and inspectors also noted that Paloma Blanca cut the activities budget in 2013, leaving little money available for programs that stimulate the minds of seniors.
Choose a facility that has activities that your loved one likes. Bingo, coming in once a week and having musicians come in. That kind of stuff can make a big difference for the happiness of your loved ones.
Dusty Harvey is Frederick's attorney, but also an advocate for the elderly. She says problems at nursing homes are widespread, and our data supports that notion. Take St. John's Healthcare and Rehabilitation Center. Inspectors noted seniors were forced to live without air conditioning for weeks during the dead of summer last year. At Ladera Care and Rehabilitation, nurses forgot to change out a patient's catheter for a month and a half, exposing that resident to possible infection. At St. Teresa Healthcare and Rehabilitation, inspectors found that a woman had to wait 3 days to be changed after she had urinated on herself.
People get into a situation where they're almost at their wit's end, and they feel like their options are closing in on them, and that might be a vulnerable place for a lot of people to be in.
I think about 100% of nursing home admit processes are that, where your loved one's in the hospital and all of a sudden they're discharged and you have a day to pick a nursing home.
And do you think nursing homes know this and use that to their advantage?
They do. Of course, they want to fill their beds, so they're going to do everything possible to get that nursing home resident into their home.
Don't let your loved ones be victims, and you can do that by doing some extra snooping. Dusty Harvey encourages dropping in on prospective facilities at odd times to check things out and do your homework.
Now, all these documents, they're not secretive, it's all public information. And you can get all of this from the New Mexico Department of Health or from Medicare.gov. If you see that a facility that you're interested in has some deficiencies, bring it up, talk to the administrator, and ask that person to prove to you how they've corrected the problem.
A lot of the residents in jails are afforded more rights than some of the residents in nursing homes and receive it and better care.
For Frederick Lloyd, his lawsuit is moving along. The memory of his mother, Kyoko, is still in his mind, wondering, had she been cared for differently, would she still be here today? Chris Ramirez, 4 on Your Side.
And I did reach out to Paloma Blanca's corporate owner. The company chose not to respond to our investigation. As for the other nursing homes mentioned, they have all corrected any problems the state health department found. You know, Ryan, one of the things that we couldn't get into the story, but was really important for Dusty Harvey, the attorney there, was how important it is to not sign an arbitration clause. Basically, Dusty says that arbitration clause takes away your constitutional right to a jury trial if something goes wrong while your loved one is at that facility.
It goes without saying, read the fine print on everything we've just talked about. Do your homework, really kind of know what you're getting into before you commit.
And one of the things is, you know, when you're, as Dusty was mentioning, when you're admitting your loved one into a nursing home, a lot of times it's a high stress situation, but you still have to make the time to stop what you're doing, sort of block the emotions, and just read through that fine print.
Exactly.
Okay, well, stay with us. We're going to be right back with more 4 on Your Side investigations after this break. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. This morning, we're bringing you up to date on some of our 4 on Your Side investigations from this past month. One of the stories we wanted to know more about involved the Albuquerque Police Department and weapon manufacturer Taser International. And Ryan, the question we were asking is that pairing good for public safety, and does it make sense for taxpayers?
$1,554,608. That is how much money the Albuquerque Police Department has spent on Taser products since 2011. Here are the facts. Former police chief Ray Schultz played a big role in securing the Taser contract. The contract was sole sourced, meaning no other company was allowed to bid. And once the contract was secure, Ray Schultz retired and then got a paycheck from Taser International.
When we're spending millions of dollars of the taxpayers' money, there should be comparables and comparisons on who offers the best product for the department in this country. There are companies that are capable of doing the work, and is Taser the best company? We don't know that because no other company had the opportunity to bid on these contracts.
City Councilor Ken Sanchez called on the state auditor to investigate these facts. City Councilor Dan Lewis asked the Attorney General to look into it too. We've also taken a critical look at Taser International, and our investigation took us to Scottsdale, Arizona, where we learned the Albuquerque Police Department is used as a beta testing ground for Taser. spokesperson for APD, Janet Blair, has publicly said that APD and TASER work together to test products. In an email to me, she wrote, "We are a laboratory of sorts for perfection."
Basically, we are paying millions of dollars to TASER, and we are the testing ground for their equipment. And that's very unfortunate for the police department, along with our citizens.
We took these concerns to the city's mayor, Richard Berry. Does it make sense for Albuquerque to be a beta testing site or a laboratory, as the APD spokeswoman would call it?
I do have confidence that no one at the Albuquerque Police Department would intentionally be a beta testing site or working with a manufacturer to do something that would put someone in harm's way. I know the intention is to make the products better so that both in Albuquerque and around the country there's better products for police departments to use. But I think you have to be careful in the way you do that, and I have confidence that they are cautiously going about this.
The Albuquerque Police Department and the citizens of this community should not be the testing ground for TASER, especially when we're paying them that kind of money.
Now, on the surface, the company looks pretty good. Stocks are up, sales are up, but all you have to do is go under that surface to find that there are some serious problems here at TASER International. According to TASER's own internal documents, every year the company increases its warranty budget because more and more defective and failing products are sent back to the plant. TASER is spending a record amount in 2014 fixing defective weapons and on-body cameras. And when TASER products don't work, people often get hurt. Right now, TASER International has 18 different lawsuits that they're battling, all having to do with either wrongful death or personal injury because of their products. Not too long ago, TASER was wrapped up in 55 lawsuits.
This is hitting home. This is hitting your heart.
One of the worst is this case out of Charlotte, North Carolina. 17-year-old Daryl Turner was working in this grocery store when he got into an argument with his manager. Officers tased him in the chest, the spot where they were trained to shoot. But the electricity was close to his heart and it immediately sent him into cardiac arrest. He died moments later. The community was furious.
He's 17 years old. He's skinny. He's not a big man. You can't tell me you're going to tase this little boy.
A jury sided with Turner's family that the TASER product killed the teen. The jury ordered TASER to pay $10 million to the Turner family.
Well, if TASER does not have the best product in this country, we should not be purchasing our equipment from TASER, and we should start looking elsewhere.
But when the city denied any other company to bid for the equipment, none of these facts were explored. Nobody checked TASER's safety record, and nobody checked to see if any other company made a safer, better product. And Ryan, I think that last line of the package really sums up what this community is feeling, that had APD and the city of Albuquerque done a better job of seeing if there were better products on the market, maybe they would have explored some of these facts with some of the defective merchandise that TASER sells.
That's a fair question to ask, absolutely. Well, as we expose corruption and scams in our 4 On Your Side investigations, we also like to feature stories about solving problems. This past month, an internet security company, an expert, helped us identify security problems with websites that many of us use every day to pay bills, handle banking, even pay parking tickets.
Here, along the superhighway of freedom, there are few limits, few boundaries, few barriers. It's just as easy to talk to someone around the world as it is to pay your bills anymore. That's where the people who exploit these freedoms try to cash in.
They know how to dig. Yeah, it's ridiculous, really.
And up until we started asking questions, those hackers could have gone after you through big websites like those belonging to New Mexico Gas and PNM, to name a few. We tested the encryption on those sites, the technology that blocks your information from getting into the hands of hackers. And on an A to F grading scale, both fail.
If you have an F, it's something that you should immediately look at.
Ivan Ristic in London is the man who developed the test as a hobby of sorts. It's now called the Qualys SSL Lab Test, now owned by the Qualys Computer Security Company. It runs hundreds of its own tests on every security feature on supposedly secure websites. It looks at the new features and the old ones and finds problems, some of them quick fixes. For instance, it helped identify the big Heartbleed security bug that made international headlines 4 months ago.
Some problems are more difficult to exploit. But still, if it's an F, it's serious.
In PNM's case, a hacker could have gone phishing with a PNM customer, diverting their web traffic somewhere other than PNM's website. PNM has since fixed the problem, and the site now scores an A-. Altogether, we found 10 sites in New Mexico that failed for similar reasons. Presbyterian Hospital's patient registration, U.S. New Mexico Federal Credit Union, New Mexico MBD, the city of Albuquerque's parking ticket site. They all improved after we got involved.
We would love to be A5 pluses, but nobody is ever A5 pluses.
Brian Osterloh is the city's Associate Chief Information Officer. He says the city's in the process of tossing out old servers, some about 10 years old, the ones that are unable to support the newest security protocols.
We're moving as rapidly as we can, and I think as rapidly as is prudent.
Fact is, he and the IT people at those other agencies and companies know that New Mexicans value their online security and didn't like the initial results we found.
They all scored an F.
Lovely.
People who hope security will forever remain a top priority.
Well, certainly you can run that test for yourself to test your bank, your hospital, your school, whatever it is you want to test. The information is on our website right now, KOB.com. We also have more detailed responses from the companies and agencies we referenced there in that story.
Scary information there. We saw the Presbyterian hospital registration or patient registration. A lot of areas in our lives that touch us and we touch them, but may not. We sort of make the assumption that the company is doing everything that they can to protect our information.
Right. Well, and some of these things that these hackers will target are very, very specific, and that's what that test analyzed. The things that expose, for instance, the heartbleed leak, which we mentioned in that story. That was something that everybody had overlooked in the IT world for a long time, and lo and behold, there was a lot of really valuable information stored in random memory that a hacker could have used and compromised your username or your password. If you're an IT person, you always have to stay up to date as much as you can.
Good work. All right, moving on to the next story. This past month, we also had a major update to a 400 site investigation that we had exposed back in February. We featured some of the FBI's most wanted fugitives. One of them was Neil Stammer, a professional juggler who skipped town after being charged here in Albuquerque with child molestation back in 1999. Now, he almost vanished out of New Mexico's memory until our 400 site investigative unit worked with the FBI to reopen this cold case, and in July, Stammer was brought back to New Mexico to face justice.
Why didn't you turn yourself in?
Again, I shouldn't answer these questions until the time is right, but I will talk to you when the time is right, okay?
Did you know authorities were looking for you?
No, I did not.
That's our reporter Eric Kazuko asking Neil Stammer the questions that federal investigators have wanted to ask for a long time. These are the KOB 400 site offices, and this is where we decided 6 months ago that we were going to team up with the FBI and report on a series of cold cases that at the time we were calling New Mexico's blacklist. And at the top of the FBI's list was Stammer's case. They were simply calling him the juggler. On February 24th, we aired Stammer's story. Tonight, we are reopening a cold case. Once we posted the report on the web, thousands of people clicked on it. Our story got people all over the world once again talking about Neil Stammer, the professional juggler accused of luring kids with his magic shop and tricks, then sexually assaulting them.
The beginning of this year, the FBI launched a new blitz of publicity related to Neil Stammer, and that included media interviews as well as a wanted poster that was distributed around the world. We think that had a lot to do with justice finally coming to find Mr. Neil Stammer.
The story highlights what we here at KOB take seriously, working with law enforcement in a way that makes New Mexico a safer, better community.
We brought one of New Mexico's most wanted fugitives to justice, and he has been turned over to local authorities now for trial.
Neil Stammer had been living in Nepal and other areas of the world. He was going by the name of Kevin Hodges. That was the name on his passport. The government in Nepal flagged that he had been using a fake passport. In fact, the person, the real Mr. Hodges actually died at the age of 2 years old. They were able to find that. Then they let the U.S. State Department know. The FBI got involved and realized that he's actually Neil Stammer, and then he was brought back to the United States.
Just the fact that this man moved around so much, and his knowledge and his languages, I mean,
Yes.
it's just such a fascinating story. But timely, though, too, in the sense that he got arrested here just a couple weeks after you ran your story.
Yeah, a few months, but yeah, Neil Stammer is versed in at least 30 different languages, and this isn't just knowing a few words here and there. He is absolutely fluent in lots of languages, and so he was able to easily move around the world and blend in, living in Nepal for quite some time.
Right. Well, the cold case folks who work these cases, they certainly take priority in this, and I would assume appreciated the exposure on this one, I would think.
Yeah, and just to rewind a few months, Ryan and I did a series of stories we're calling them New Mexico's Blacklist. We teamed up, we partnered with the FBI, we profiled a couple of different people. Neil Stammer was one of them. So when Neil Stammer was brought back to New Mexico in July, I know that we were elated that our stories had some small part to do with bringing him back to face the charges that he has here in New Mexico.
Absolutely, and hopefully those other cases that we did profile as well will hopefully see some results too.
Well, thank you for watching, and remember to call the 4 on Your Side tip line if you have a story that you think that Ryan and I need to investigate. Nicole will be back next weekend with another Eye on New Mexico, and Danielle Tedesco and I will be back later for KOB Eyewitness News 4 at 5.